Live streaming is on.
Live streaming is on, so we are back on the main video conferencing room, prepared for Kamailio online, and it's time for the open discussion with Kamailio developers. Probably I'm gonna switch off my video and mute myself anytime I don't speak. It seems that was better this way for live streaming and getting as many participants as possible in the room. If streaming is gonna fail or disconnect, then we are continuing to have here our open discussion about Kamailio development. You can also post questions on Matik's channel, and I will read for the developers in this room. You can also post your comments on a YouTube channel if streaming is working, and I will check from time to time and put it in discussion in this room. Thank you everyone for participating to this online event. Again, more like an experiment, playing with open source tools like Jitsi Meet, Matrix. Many thanks to the teams behind those projects, and we learn as we go to make it better for the next sessions. So time for open discussions now. Type your questions in the chat if you are not in the video conferencing bridge, or just unmute yourself, turn video on if you want, or just say audio with your question. Pavel Sidorovich saying that there is issue with the Jitsi when more than 20 people connected. Not only here, this is just the generic. And if you are not speaking, again, keep yourself muted. Okay, who wants to go with the first question? I'm keeping myself unmuted till the first question arrives. If not, I see Victor is here, so I have a question for Victor, as I have it in my slides about these PD headers. Victor, can you describe a little bit the purpose of that module? Hope you can hear me. I think Victor is not listening, or?
Looks like there's a discussion in the Matrix channel about RTP engine, Docker, I guess, as well as some of the possible scenarios.
Okay. Yeah, I see it about the possible scenarios with Docker. I think we as developers would like to learn a little bit more about this more or less virtualization of the infrastructure. It can help developing and testing, but as everyone knows, more or less, learning these platforms, it's like full job these days, because the new updates, the new version of these tools come with newer features, with different configuration options. So keeping up with that, with those technology is not easy. Okay, so Victor cannot participate in the discussion for private matters right now, that's okay. We'll get him tomorrow. He cannot escape, if not via mailing list. So I'm not sure, maybe continuing with this Docker. Anyone here actually running in production Dockers? At Kamailio World, when it was in Berlin, we had Simon presenting on this topic and a couple of other presentation, but I'm curious if anyone else had experiences, not like for development and testing, but a bit more into production.
So Kamailio, I have. My name is Yuri, and I have a couple of projects that's running in the Docker. So particular Kamailio, not Ortep engine, of course, because of Ortep engine is quite painful, as Igor mentioned, and as probably other guys know, that just because of you have to go to the host level with network, and this makes no sense to run Ortep engine without host. Sorry, I will share myself with the camera. So it's quite good. So it's easy manageable. So I wasn't able to catch any huge problems with this. The only thing that, of course, you have to advertise IP address, as Igor mentioned, and I just asked maybe he had experience to make it working with not advertised IP addresses and somehow without host level network. But if this is not a problem about advertising, so in other different scenarios, it works fine and not worse than, for example, Kamailio on the additional on the machine without any Docker or even any virtualization.
So, if you were gonna, I mean, I like the idea of Docker, and I really wanted to not like Docker, but so I'm getting into it slowly. But if you're already gonna run, let's say, RTP engine not in Docker, I'm trying to understand why I would then run Kamailio.
Yeah. So. For example, so I have a couple of projects where Kamailio is stateless. So we implemented like a stateless cluster of the proxies that actually becomes not stateful, but yes, so for keep transaction alive and whatever. So in that case, so even in Kubernetes, it's really good because if you are not aware about losing machine, for example, for losing one of the machines. So if Docker will be fell down, so you don't have any problems with this. And other scenario when it's good to use. So for example, with different clouds, for example, AWS, they have this whole pipeline from the development to deployment, and then there are kind of not how to say it. There are kind of benefits by using Docker. It's much easier. And for me, it's also I will talk about this tomorrow when you're doing some extended scripting with Lua, for example. It's also really easy to go with Docker to add in scripts to the Docker and keep machine running and other things. So some kind of that.
Okay, Federico, you're...
Yeah, I just wanted to share my 2 cents about this topic. So I'm one of those who's running a world production environment in Kubernetes. And I agree with all the observations done until now. Kamailio is pretty good in doing it in Kubernetes, even with a standard Docker images. So just managing to append to inject your own configuration if you want. For the RTP engine, you have to use the trick of having a privileged container running and on-host network. But apart from this, you can leverage all the benefits, internal benefits of Kubernetes, like, for example, having SRV records automatically created for headless services, or managing all the part that is running, deploying, scaling up and down. And I have to say, Kamailio is pretty good about this. And I mean, it has no problem. There's no difference in running a real environment, traditional environment. And mainly, and also you can also leverage some cloud approaches, like, for example, using a pure network load balancer in the cloud like GCP or AWS. Mainly, I have personal experience now with GCP, but nothing prevents it to be used, for example, for having a network load balancer for direct to targeting TLS streams to Kamailio backend, used as a kind of SBC in the cloud. So my personal experience is pretty good. That's it.
Okay, so yeah, we also run for this event Jitsi in Docker, because the instructions are straightforward, and as we plan it to be a relaxed event, not invest much time in infrastructure and setting up things, learn as we go. Seems to be pretty stable so far. Of course, depends on the number of participants, but we are able to have, once we discover some issues on security or authentication, looks like being stable now. Any other question at this moment from participants on the YouTube channel? Nothing yet. Henning?
Yeah, so maybe not a question, but maybe a comment or like starting point for discussion. I mean, today briefly we had the discussion again on the list about the security topic, and I raised the topic of creating some releases for 5.2, 5.3. Make 5.2. Maybe I could do it next week if this is fine for everybody. What do you think, Daniel, about 5.3?
Yeah, no, we'll do it. It was a little bit busy summer for everyone, I assume, and it was anyhow like planned to do it next week for 5.3, and then 5.2. Somehow the announcement was not expected to be now from my point of view, but can happen at any time, and it was fixed there. It's on the branches, so that's from mid of June and July. Sorry,
July. Yes.
Just that I didn't get the time for more time for during the vacation time. You know, there are a little bit busy times for everyone, not from work, but family, and then also the pandemic puts a bit more constraints on what we can do. As a matter of fact, as it was discussed a little bit internally, but also public on this list, I didn't find it at all being anything critical to rush it. Of course, it was fixed as any bug as soon as possible. But it's not, in my opinion, as something highly critical. It's not breaking anything, any routing, any security from the standard point of view. It's just from internal design of communication between the nodes, and that requires insider information. But yeah, we'll do releases. We get back now in like usual release phases. Maybe I'll even do one for 5.4 soon, because I saw there was some regression with this cleanup of
Less, yes.
yeah, this obsoleted TLS API, which I thought it's good to have, because the newer operating system ship with a clean libSSL 1, and I was like, maybe it doesn't compile like in a few months on this new releases, like Ubuntu releases on October, like every year, right? A new
Yes.
version, and I don't know which other operating systems, Linux-based, will release soon a new version. As it looked like a cleanup from this perspective, I thought it's good to have it and be prepared for newer Linux distros, but seems to create a problem. So we may have to do a sooner release from that perspective.
Yeah.
Hey, Marcus.
Sounds like that, yeah.
How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Hi, everybody. I'm fine. Just came back from work at home.
Back from work at home to
this week, so I just had some few minutes just to listen to the talks today, so I have to watch them later on YouTube.
We need to merge them. So far, only like a split session, but hopefully we'll get them in a better shape soon. Until we got familiar with streaming, we had some interruptions, but should be all fine.
And Daniel, one last point regarding the release topic. 5.2, I think this would be then probably the last one of this branch, correct?
Yeah, it should be the last one. Maybe if we discover really critical stuff, we can do the last, very last one on 2 years, around 2 years from the date of the release. But officially, it's going to be the last one. Anyhow, it's like 1 month before 2 years.
Yes.
So I think it's fine to do it, and yeah, if we don't find anything highly critical, that will be the last one. If we find something in 1 more month or so, we can do like a security release just for allowing a bit more time for people to transition to new version.
Okay. Okay, then I will look a bit to my schedule, and also I can announce like a date to do the 5.2. I can do it from my side as the last time.
Okay. Thanks for doing that one. And yeah, regarding to the security incidents, from my perspective, and maybe a little bit closer to what I've seen with Linux kernel and the Linux approach, I consider any bug as a security problem, because could be from different perspectives an issue, and I try to fix as quick as possible, mainly for the core and the modules I'm using. I'm not much involved with maybe extensions such as Radius or even the IMS extensions. I'm not able to work on it, but probably everyone can see on the GitHub as we deal with issues when it's something easy to reproduce, we act immediately. Of course, there are periods of the year, vacation, maybe less traveling now to other events, conferences, but we also have to work. So if I do like online training, practically I'm speaking in a video conference room all the day, and I'm not able to look at. However, I don't think we had any major bug reported and not fixed in really quick time. So from this perspective, I think we are doing pretty well. There is an issue apparently with MySQL client library on Ubuntu. Somehow it seems it's a mixture on compiling that library with intermediate libSSL 1.1. Because there were a couple of reports on getting Kamailio stuck when using libmysql on Ubuntu 16 and even 18, if I remember. And the common piece seems to be using the libmysql not for MariaDB, for the original MySQL project. Most of the projects ship now MariaDB as the default MySQL server, so it's why we haven't somehow spotted so far, but you can install the original MySQL server developed by Oracle now. I'll have to look into it, but apparently newer releases don't expose the same issue. So it would be like whoever did security update to Ubuntu 16.04 and got a new libmysql version, and then some version on Ubuntu 18. This is from what I could spot out there. This would be an issue that somehow I was not able to sort out, but specific only for this operating system and only for libmysql client developed by Oracle. Otherwise, I was checking today. There were a couple of reports, as Igor said, he filled about this dbtext. We have support for managing dbtext files via KMCTL using a Python. I don't even remember who wrote that Python file, but was not working for Python 3. I'm not really a Python developer. I'm not really using this dbtext much in production, and when I do it, I typically generate the files from another application like subscriber profiles, username, and password. So who wants to work on dbtext and the Python tool for it, it's welcome to join the team. I was actually thinking to propose obsoleting it. Anyhow, maybe in the future we will replace KMCTL with KMCLI, so that tool it's gonna go away anyhow. But if someone is using dbtext and it's using the Python tool from KMCTL, you have to spend some time to upgrade it and make it work with Python 3.
No. So I'm currently investigating a bug from a customer regarding some crashes. If you use SDP ops together with RTP engine, it's a bit special scenario. Might be something related also to the operations done in the configuration. This is something which I'm working on right now. It's a strange bug. Other than that, I think we have, of course, like some reports from time to time about crashes, but in many cases also the reporters are using like old versions. They should of course update first, and then we can investigate as usual.
Yes, well, for this one, practically you can do SDP ops earlier and then do MSG apply changes. I was thinking to add support for MSG apply changes also after transaction was created, but I didn't get time to look into it, so it's somehow in my to-do list, but I'm not sure when it's gonna happen. If someone also needs to work on this one, we can discuss. Otherwise, as I said, try to do the SDP ops before transaction was created, and then use RTP engine in the branch route, like the usual.
I mean, for RTP engine, there's also the possibility that it has some options to like read the SDP and write the SDP from some PVs or AVPs. And then you can just work on the PVs basically, and then after you have finished your operations, just write it into the SDP body. But of course, other than that, you can of course use the message apply changes. Yes.
No, because I think Ole opened, and if Ole is still here, you open something about RTCP port or address not being updated by NAT helper or RTP proxy.
Oh yeah. If you have in the SDP an A equals RTCP, a special RTCP port, that line can also include an IP address, and that helper doesn't modify that.
But it's not helper, or it's RTP proxy.
Have no RTP proxy in that setup.
Okay.
And it was a pain to fix this with strange scripting.
Regular expression, don't edit.
Yeah, regular expressions in the end.
And
so that's something we have to fix. I opened the bug report to remember, otherwise I would forget. Since I fixed the problem, but
I was not sure what it's about RTP proxy or about not helper. It's why I was asking.
well, there was no RTP proxy in the setup.
Yeah, it's clear now. Yeah, I noticed that at least with the WebRTC, you get very complex SDP with different RTCP, RTP, and other attributes there. So
this was a standard free switch, so nothing strange.
Okay, so have that in mind. Anything else for the next releases of Kamailio? What people miss? From my point of view, I saw some new, or maybe not that new RFC about push notification. I think also Federico mentioned it, some discussion. I'm not sure if it was Federico. But I plan to look into it. It's about saving like device ID and other attributes for push notification sent via registration. Likely to be possible with script operation, but if it's something common, then
I'm here.
But if it's something common, then okay. Now
okay. So yeah, sorry, I had a loop back with another device.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still reading all the RFC, but there are several operations that could almost all be implemented. That's what I'm trying to do in scripting. But there are also all the mechanism like the server itself token refresh with the server. So it might be worth having a proper RFC implementation.
Okay.
And it's heavily based on the HTTPs, or maybe in the next, as we will discuss, maybe refactoring of the internals would benefit this kind of approaches. And also the other topic was the push. Sorry, I mixed two topics. One was the push notification itself it's a complex topic that needs to be investigated, and the other one is the OAuth authentication that Ole mentioned, that also might need a proper a dedicated module. Sorry, I mixed two things.
Okay, that's about like JSON web tokens authentication, or
no, the OAuth to integration with SIP. So OAuth used as an alternate authentication bearer authentication method for SIP that Ole mentioned before, and it's another complex topic.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, it's rather complex because we need a module that talks with the validation API and a couple of other things. Of course, that module can use HTTP client to do that.
Anyway, I think that there is enough experience in this topic in Kamailio to, if needed, implement dedicated module which follow the standard once is totally completely defined.
The even more funny part is that IETF has been starting a new project to replace OAuth completely.
Yeah, I've seen it.
But it'll take another 5 years, but we'll see.
Yeah, the problem with new authentication is keeping the old devices still connected because you can't switch from one model to another model of authentication, and things can get complex. Figuring out what's supported by connecting device before challenging for authentication. So, especially the algorithms like MD5, which it's weak hashing and
that's a topic that most people in the IETF really wants to avoid, but it is the same for SIP and HTTP. And there's no documentation in the IETF how to try to mitigate a downgrade attack. For SIP, I personally would either use different DNS names for the same outbound proxy, because if I provision phones, I know which firmware that actually supports stronger authentication than MD5. So I can lock out those accounts and just configure them on another outbound proxy or another SIP domain or another authentication realm. But it was really hard taking up that discussion in the IETF.
yeah, an interesting approach with the DNS, splitting or partitioning by domains.
Yeah, as long as I have a managed setup of SIP phones, there are many different ways I can, partition my SIP network. The problem is if I have an open SIP network where people connect with bring your own device kind of stuff, then I have a whole different problem area.
And always security, it's hard to deal with from different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
On the complex direction or trying to keep it simple, but then not that secure anymore. We'll see.
Yeah. Let's skip all this digest stuff and go for TLS client certificates, because that's going to be very, very interesting discussions.
It's no longer a big business now because Let's Encrypt gives free certificates. So
not client certs, just server certs.
Yeah, well, it's hard with client certificates. Is not even present in the web world where it's maybe easier to work with the browsers. Anyone here having personal certificates used with the browser to connect to the bank or other service?
Not bank.
Or other service. I have it for like VPN, but they are self-generated. I'm my own certificate authority for the VPN, but then I have
most people that use OpenVPN have client certs.
Yeah,
I would say, but OpenVPN is, and I dug into the code about OpenVPN and StrongSwan. It's really hard to set up profiles based on the content of the client certs, which is what I want to do. They just blindly accept any client cert with any content. As long as it's signed by the proper CA, we're fine.
So Carsten has a remark that the finance government use certificates, I assume like client-side certificates. Well, I expect that for government to do a little bit more when they are a restricted group and eventually educated before they are hired in those positions. But for us, it would be hard to give to like end user, my grandmother or whoever is going to be a customer, and tell.
Funny enough, in our world, there's actually a rather old RC I haven't seen implemented where you can subscribe for your client cert. So you leverage another authentication, and today that could be OAuth. And then you get the client cert over Notify. And you can also subscribe to someone else's public key and certificate. And I find that rather interesting.
Yeah. Okay. What else for next level in VoIP or next in Kamailio? Problems with Kamailio configuration file that you want to sort out? What else? Probably we have to resume soon.
Yeah, the old issue about not having semicolons after mode params.
Not having semicolon after, sorry?
In the rest of the routing script, we always have to end the lines with semicolon. Mod params, no.
I think that can be fixed easily. I'm not sure why it was not added. It's just a matter of grammar to make it optional. I think also for...
It's really hard when you're teaching someone.
Okay. And same should be also for global parameters, or with global parameter is supported? I think is supported.
I don't know, but it should be.
Okay. I can check this one. It should not be a big problem.
Sorry, I have a question in this context regarding, so I really love Kemi and Lua.
Who are you?
Sorry, I'm Yuri, and I will unmute my camera. Regarding this feature. Hello, regarding this feature development. So for now, we're using this mod param to load dynamic models, SO models, but it also can be done via Lua require not application, but require function gives you possibility to load dynamic libraries. And so if there are plans to extend it, so in that case, we will be able to easily go away from the CFG at all, so and make it more dynamic.
Yeah, I was thinking about this one. The only problem is it's not that common for all scripting languages that we support. Might be easy with Lua, but might not be possible with the other scripting languages. The main goal so far was that the routing script, which is exposed to changes a bit more often than mod params or the loaded list of modules. I haven't spent much time on it. Maybe if I get some time, I can look and see if I can find some common approach and enable such behavior for Lua, Python, Ruby, JavaScript. The main need was, if you want to amend the log message that you have in Kamailio CFG, it was requiring restarting. So, these small bits that could be useful for major changes, and especially for these loading modules and global parameters, as we create structure in private memory at the beginning, would require rather more work to sort it out. But over the time, we may end up there. So far, like immediate plans, I don't have plans to work on it like in the next few months. When I get time, and maybe as we discussed at the last year dev meeting in Düsseldorf, we would soon have to look at Kamailio 6.0, major refactoring from the perspective of distributing the task internally. So somehow using internal queues for processing. So this would be a bit higher priority from my point of view. Federico, Ole, and they were in Düsseldorf, and we had an interesting discussion about this one. And probably we'll have to resume it online, either doing such develop conference via video or doing it via mailing list. Of course, this year took us by surprise to in all aspects. So the first months we had to adapt and adjust, but probably from now on we have to work with this style of life and collaboration. So we'll see what we can do in terms of mode params and global parameters. Just to highlight that some of them can be changed at runtime without restarting Kamailio. So connection, TCP connection timeout, you can change via RPC. So it's not always a need to restart if you want to change these values. But if you want to change IP for listening, ports, and so on, it's required to restart. Hope that answered your question. Anything else for the upcoming Kamailio version? What you like to do, or any problems that you face with current Kamailio? If not, maybe Henning can tell us a little bit about fuzzing. I saw you posted some update on developers. If you are still there.
Yes, I'm there, of course. Sure. So it's
your presentation tomorrow is going to be about Microsoft Teams, which seems to be a hot topic this year on this.
Indeed.
I know you do also a lot of fuzzing, and maybe you can give a brief update to everyone.
Yes, just let me quickly have a look to the stats. Okay, yeah, so basically, I mean, right now, like for Kamailio, for the Kamailio project, yeah, thanks to Fred, he provides the machine since over 1 year, maybe 2 years even. He provided a machine from his company to be able to run that. Thank you for that, Fred. So basically, I did several runs. Like from time to time, of course, I take a new Kamailio version and also a new version of the fuzzer. And the last one was started, I think, 200 days ago. And yeah, so far it's running really, really well. I just posted earlier today some information also in the chat. So the current stats are like 1.1 billion executions so far. So it's really doing a lot of work. So almost 70 tests per second. It does on the Kamailio with basically it takes several messages like invite, some messages in this area from a zip call basically, and then works on that and trying to crash Kamailio. And so far it was not thankfully it was not really successful. I didn't manage to find a crash like in the last half year yet. So it looks pretty good from that point. I think I will let it run a few more, maybe 1-2 more weeks. Then it will somehow probably come to an end. After some time, it will not find any new paths in the program to look into it. And then I will probably start a new one with, probably with Kamailio 5, 5.4, 1 maybe then. Yeah, so that's the current situation. It looks pretty good, pretty stable, at least from the tests I'm doing. But of course, like you can't do tests everything in the end. It's not, of course, not possible with that fuzzing to test the complete call flow. It's just basically trying to find exploit the server, but it will not, of course, doing like a long call with several branches and all kind of crazy stuff that we are doing, our customers are doing in the field. Of course, it's a bit more limited to what it can do, but nevertheless, it still provides a good protection, I think, against attackers and provide a good coverage against bugs in the code, in the parser that we might have. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for doing that and stressing Kamailio to see how it behaves under fuzzing tools. So, and good to know it didn't crash yet. We wait for it. Okay, so probably soon we'll also have like the usual online dev meeting with the community, as we typically have 2 of them, one spring, one autumn, to plan an open discussion from the development point of view, the roadmap to next major release. If we get a time to really tackle the proposals for major refactoring like 6.0, then we can jump to it. If not, we'll have 5.5. Again, I'm not really seeing any major missing feature in Kamailio based from feedback I got from customers, but also from the mailing list. Of course, always there is some new NoSQL or different data broker like Kafka or distributed message queue that we may not support yet, but we have like RabbitMQ, NSQ, then a lot of NoSQL, Redis, Memcache, or Mongo. And yeah, different companies like one or another, and if they discover we don't have it, they are welcome to contribute. With many of these platforms, actually, you can just use their HTTP API, like with ATCD. They expose HTTP API, and you can interact for getting, storing the values in such systems. But in terms of big missing features, I'm not aware of any. We had this still shaken, which in Europe is not, at least to my knowledge, any big pressure. I haven't heard of countries preparing to roll it out. Maybe UK, I'm not sure on their approach, but like continental Europe, not big problems with robocalling. And here I speak mainly about West Europe, where I have more experience with local markets. I know that in US it's something to be rolled out soon. We added this support in Kamailio. If someone has issue or needs assistance, I would be glad to assist via SI user mailing list. Just approach there. I plan to spend a little bit time on packaging that library and make it easier available. I noticed that FreeSwitch has support for it. They implemented the library from scratch, and Asterix as well. Yeah, so again, whenever you have some idea, make a feature request. We somehow discussed and plan it as when there is a feature request, it has to be evaluated, and if there is no developer that wants that feature and has time to work for it, after a while we have to move it into like closed state or a centralized page for such issues, not to get the main tracker full of feature requests, because different people can come and just ask whatever they need for their own specific case, not something useful for the others. So such requests could be merged, but in that case, who needs it has to put efforts in developing it, like making a pull request by itself or finding a developer, could be commercial support or some other approach to get such feature done. From my perspective, I try to follow as much as possible the requirements from ITF specs. So if some feature is missing and it's coming from ITF that has higher priority rather than supporting whatever backends some company likes, NoSQL or message queuing or something like that. Anything else? I haven't checked the channel for a while. No question there. Only a discussion about what can be used as traffic generators. So PJSUA or FreeSwitch can be also used, or Asterix as endpoint. So command line phone to initiate calls or to answer calls. Maybe a question if anyone has met requirements or needs into the direction of DTLS for signaling. I haven't actually seen it. Just asking if anyone is working with DTLS for signaling. No?
I haven't heard any progress on that. Would be interesting to look into using Quick instead of DTLS directly.
Yeah, I was actually thinking to make also client WebSocket connection. Could be sometimes useful because you get framing and it's a little bit easier for getting the message instead of streaming over TLS. But with the TLS, yeah, I couldn't find any other device supporting it. And anyhow, you have to maintain the session. So you still have to do session management like for TLS, only that you have datagram sending and receiving, which simplifies a bit. And yeah, I was pleased to, or surprised as well as surprised a little bit that someone was asking about SCTP, and it was also opening an issue on the tracker because I haven't seen SCTP deployments lately. I had some prototypes, but more like 8 years ago. So
I was also surprised, yes.
Good
I
to see
haven't
that
seen
some
it a lot,
people
yes.
are using SCTP and that it was actually working. There seems to be a conflict on connecting to the same system with different IP addresses with the latest Red Hat or so. Anything else? Everyone happy with Kamailio? I'm glad to hear that.
Maybe one a bit also more like community orientated thing. So just I think today it was announced that the next FOSDEM will be of course also online, but they have at least a date. I think the 6th and 7th of February. So yeah, I still have some time, but we also should maybe think about what if we can do something here, maybe another online event. I don't know. Not sure if there's like a online voice over IP dev room or something like this happens again. We need to check.
I'm actually worried because there's very, very short time for them to completely redesign the beer distribution formula.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
That's gonna be really, really hard. But I require my free beer here in Sollentuna, Sweden.
Yeah, we'll see, because it's, I mean, with so many sessions in parallels, they really need a good infrastructure. Or maybe they're gonna run servers across the world for different rooms. They are streaming anyhow, right? But now it's gonna be more like dual stream, two-way communication, on many communication in this kind of formula. Or maybe they just do streaming and taking the questions via text chatting. But if you want to get like 500 people in a video conferencing room, like used to be in the amphitheaters there, or even 2,000 like in Jason room, that would be really interesting to see who can sustain such a capacity, like a video conferencing solution for such capacity.
I mean, they have like these big company name sponsors, so maybe they are able to provide something. I mean, like for Microsoft and the other ones, Facebook, whatever, I think like at least to do like from like only to push video, of course, to like 10,000 people. This is of course what can be done, but having like a real interaction and question answer and things like this is of course much more difficult, as we also observed today a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, for us today was more like getting familiar with, and I think
Of course.
it's and it's also a matter of resources. Like here, it was planned from the beginning, just community oriented, just meeting each other online, not spending any resources, and not getting sponsors or infrastructure that cost money. Because the goal is that in long term, we may just use it for these online meetings between developers or future version. So instead of outsourcing, I thought it's a good way to learn it ourselves for using it in the future for the community. But yeah, maybe if they get to some, 6 zeros sponsorship or infrastructure worth of money from Microsoft or Cisco or so, it's easier to handle it. Otherwise, I think everyone moved online. I was with ClueCon, I saw also AstriCon. Somehow, I like it and I dislike it. It's a bit more convenient to join from anywhere, but it's not the same feeling, not the same interaction in a way or another. You feel like isolated even if you are somehow together. And we know that you don't have the same level of conversation or the same kind of privacy. Even if it's end-to-end encryption, people are reticent as compared with having one-to-one conversation on a conference hall or during a drink in the evening. But maybe the smart brains in the medicine research will find a solution for the virus, the COVID, and will start. The world will start meeting in person in the near future.
I mean, there's definitely a difference, and I mean, even from our families treating us differently during the conferences, Victor's babysitting can attest to. But the I mean, it's definitely better than nothing, and I'm really looking forward to another in-person conference. I miss them. It's nice to actually see someone face to face and communicate outside of what we do every day in terms of setting up communications and things like that. But I'm grateful that everyone's taken the time to meet online. It's good to see everyone and discuss a product that we all share in common. And just grateful for the time that everyone's taking, and hoping that we can see each other in person and all enjoy dinners in Berlin again.
Or in other places. Food is also good in Orlando, Chicago, Brussels. Good beer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I also hope maybe next year, even for next year, we're gonna have like 20 years of Kamailio project development. Would be really nice to be able to meet in person. I think would be much better than having a drink here in the office room, or everyone in their office room or sofa, living room.
I think we need to observe a bit really how it develops regarding like the vaccination and stuff. So maybe we need to move it a bit later to the year, but let's see. I mean, probably give it a few more months, and then we will have probably a bit more clarity, and then we can discuss and decide how to proceed regarding like next year 20 years edition.
Yeah, we'll see how goes this autumn winter. Everyone is kind of preparing for a big wave, second or third, or just a tsunami. We will see. But if we are managing it, maybe next year will be a little bit more relaxed. We will see. That's life. We have to solve challenges, not only bugs on open source project, on the open source we work with, but in the real life, it's part of life. Okay, last words around here for the live session, because I'm gonna stop it in a few minutes, but we can continue here like free discussion without any kind of recording. For tomorrow, we'll start again like 10 minutes before to prepare and be sure everything is working from the infrastructure point of view, and give some information for the new participants. Likely we are going to limit again the number of participants during the presentations and live demos to avoid live streaming issues, and then open it again for everyone for open discussion in this celebration party. We'll have presentation tomorrow from Henning, and I'm sure he's going to have good attendance, because question about Microsoft Teams integration were quite common in the past months in the mailing list. Fred will show us some security-related presentation, integration with API ban for blocking IP addresses of bad actors. Yuri, which had a couple of questions, has also presentation about Kamailio scripting and testing suite related to it. And then looking for Emmanuel discussing about distributed presence services with JSON. So passing presence states between SIP systems using JSON, and eventually using presence modules with in-memory storage for Kamailio. And I'll have a demo about KMCLI, hoping to attract more users, or even better, more developers, because it has a large set of useful features by now, including this interactive embedded shell with command completion, suggestions from the auto suggestion from the history, and many more. Okay, so checking if any other Okay, so we have an update from Yufei, which got a question about support of SRTP in the RTP engine failover scenario. So as this SRTP works with the latest RTP engine, this is an update from Yufei, which she had the presentation about high availability of Kamailio and RTP engine, so came with an update on the matrix channel. If you want to check the answer there, otherwise the conclusion is that as this SRTP works with the latest RTP engine and failover of it. Ole, you want to add something? You are muted, I guess.
No, I'm just looking forward to meeting all of you tomorrow. Thanks for today.
Thank you everyone for today. It was an interesting experiment, and we'll see each other tomorrow with more experience about everything. Enjoy the evening again.
A special thank you to Fred and Daniel for all the technology work behind the scenes to get this running. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Although
Thank you so much.
I'm grateful for the thanks, but it's like 95% Daniel, maybe 5% Fred there.
Not really LOD sponsored the infrastructure, and actually helped to discover a lot of issues with this Gypsy Meet as we are first experiencing with it. Anyhow, thank you everyone. I'm just gonna stop the stream now, but doesn't mean the room is closed. See you tomorrow on the live stream.